Negotiation is a common feature of everyday life. However, many aspects of negotiations have broader applications to other bargaining activities in society. In this presentation, I will define collective bargaining, explain how to achieve successful bargaining, break down the components of the bargaining structure, explicate the bargaining unit, and describe the bargaining range. Collective bargaining refers to the negotiation process between an employer and a union comprised of workers to create an agreement that will govern the terms and conditions of the workers' employment. The basic objective of collective bargaining is to resolve such interest disputes by reaching an agreement acceptable to both the union and management. Attitudes of the union and management officials toward collective bargaining and the negotiated settlement influence their relationship during the term or duration of the labor agreement. Objectively measuring the economic value or cost of a specific settlement influences their relationship during the term or duration of the labor agreement. Subjectively measuring refers to measuring the relationship between management and union representatives. The fact that both parties understand that they will return to the bargaining table in future negotiations affects their strategic choices regarding acceptable tactics and outcomes in any current negotiation. A successful bargaining settlement reinforces the labor management relationship whereby the parties, even if they don't always agree, trust each other to be honest and straightforward without trying to damage the other party. The bargaining structure has two general dimensions: independent employee groups that can affect the collective bargaining outcome, and the employees and employers who are subject to the provisions of the negotiated labor agreement or bargaining unit. For employee groups, in some cases, union and management officials are influenced by the collective bargaining settlements of other independent groups of employees. Pattern bargaining is a course of conduct by a person who is a negotiating party to two or more proposed enterprise agreements, seeking common wages or conditions for two or more of those agreements where the conduct extends beyond a single business. Whipsawing is an employer's use of the terms of an agreement with one bargaining unit as leverage in negotiating with other bargaining units. A lock-in agreement requires each union-represented bargaining unit covered by an agreement to withhold final settlement until all involved unions are willing to settle. Coordinated bargaining refers to a type of bargaining in which multiple unions negotiate simultaneously at different locations to refrain from settlement until all are ready to settle on the terms almost same in substance. Leapfrogging uses the most recent contracts in the industry as a starting point for extracting further concessions. The second dimension of the bargaining structure is the bargaining unit, which refers to the employees and employers who will be bound by a negotiated labor agreement. Any appropriate bargaining unit determined by the NLRB for representation and election purposes is, by definition, a unit appropriate for negotiating purposes. Once a union has been certified as a representative of an ABU, two or more ABUs may be combined for the purpose of negotiating a single labor agreement to cover all ABUs if such a combination is acceptable to both the union and the employer. Combining bargaining units often involves two or more ABUs at one employer's operation represented by the same union. Sometimes ABUs represented by different unions are combined. Non-mandatory subjects are subjects that management negotiators are not legally required to discuss if they don't want the ABUs to be combined. However, with mandatory subjects such as wages, hours, and working conditions, if the union wants to discuss these topics, then management is required to bargain with the union over these subjects. Choosing to formally combine ABUs from different companies for negotiation purposes can take several forms. Centralized bargaining occurs when employers in a sector get together and bargain with one union representing the employees of those employers. Multi-employer bargaining units occurs when one or more employers in a geographic region combine to negotiate a single contract covering employees at each of the participating employers' firms who are typically The selection of the number and type of individuals who will make up the bargaining team for each party is an important decision that can affect the outcome of negotiations. Union and management negotiators seek bargaining team members who can keep their emotions and opinions in check. Smaller teams are generally preferable with a max of 9 negotiators. Larger teams tend to experience coordination issues and require more time to reach a consensus. Management generally selects negotiating members based on the perceived need for each individual's skills and experience. Generally, management wants at least one line manager who will supervise bargaining unit employees on its team to either interpret or answer negotiating issues related to daily work operations. Unions use similar criteria, but must also weigh certain political considerations, such as using representatives from key constituent groups within the bargaining unit to serve on the union's negotiating team. Unions will usually present its bargaining proposals first, as the party initiating the request to renegotiate a current contract set to expire soon. Therefore, management negotiators may prefer to defer presenting proposals on issues the union is expected to address. An analysis is usually performed by management of the current labor contract to determine the desirable changes in language that will reduce labor costs and increase management flexibility in making operating decisions. For example, if the current contract prohibits managers from performing any bargaining unit work, then management might propose allowing supervisors to perform bargaining unit work under certain conditions. Contract language can also be ambiguous, meaning that clauses can be interpreted and negotiated in different ways. Management and union officials may propose contract language intended to nullify the impact of prior adverse arbitration decisions. They will typically contact union stewards and first-line supervisors to determine if any contract language has been difficult to administer during the term of the current labor agreement. Efforts will also be made to research data from government reports in order to give both parties substantial information with which to prepare for negotiations. Union and management officials enter collective bargaining with their own ideas of an accepted settlement, but both parties know the other will not entirely agree with their position. With that being said, both parties enter a negotiation with a range of acceptable positions that give them some room or maneuvering. These positions are grouped into the bargaining range. The resistance point in the bargaining range is the reservation or minimum limit of satisfaction for each party. The target point is the realistic goal towards which the negotiators are working. The range between the resistance point and target point is the bargaining range. The settlement range, or zone of potential agreement, is the area where parties will often compromise and strike a deal.